Welcome to the Thresholds of Reality, the podcast where we explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. Today we are joined by UFO expert and aficionado Samuel Chong, who's going to share with us his experience tracking down folks who have had UFO experiences of their own. Strap in as we explore the edges of the unknown. Samuel, welcome to the program. We appreciate you coming on, reaching out to us, and then joining us to discuss this fascinating topic. UFOs have been in the news a lot lately.
Yes.
The government's trying to rebrand them, I guess, as UAPs, but we all know them as UFOs. Now, you had kind of a run-in with somebody, or you came across a book by an individual named Michel Desmarquet. Tell us about how that book kind of changed the trajectory of your life after you ran into it.
Yes. I am a very curious person, so I have been fascinated by the stories of ET contactees. But most importantly, I like to seek out for the practical values, the practical information contained in the messages of ET contactees. What did the ETs tell us that have practical value or implications to our real day lives? So that's actually my main purpose. So I was looking for such a book, looking for a book that can answer all the answers of the paranormal mysteries on Earth, such as the Great Pyramid of Egypt, who built it, for what purposes, what are ghosts, and how we should interact with ghosts, what happens in the Bermuda Triangle, and what about the stories in the Bible? Is there reincarnation? Why is not in the Bible? So that's why I was so fascinated by this book, is that this book answers all the questions that I just listed and many more. But in the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author, Michel Desmarquet, was not allowed to write in the book because we are far from understanding them. So that got me extremely curious. What else did he know, but he wasn't allowed to write in the book? Because the book is already incredible enough in my mind. So I decided to track him down, and I grabbed a photo on the internet showing where he lived at that time, like a bungalow. And I knew where he was living, like the name of the city, but not the exact address. So I flew to that city and took the chance by showing the photo, the picture, to the taxi driver. And the taxi driver gave 2 tries, and the second try he located that specific place where I met the author of the book, Michel Desmarquet.
So you flew out there just in hopes that I just hope I can put two and two. I have this picture, and I know where it is. I mean, that's incredible that you're just like, you know what, and that you actually, after like a couple tries with this one person, that you actually found him. I mean, that's kind of cool in itself.
That's right. He was a very private person, so he asked all the people who met him to be very secretive about the exact address he was living. And I took the chance, thinking, well, if I could locate him, that's a plus. If I couldn't, then just take a vacation in Phuket, Vietnam. Yeah.
So what was his reaction when you discovered him?
Well, in the very beginning, he was thinking I was just another tourist was just happened to be there by chance. But after he learned that I was there for him for the book, he was very annoyed because he was really kind of cynical about how things were going at that time, and he didn't want to be bothered for what he personally experienced. And so he was annoyed and didn't really answer a lot of the questions I had in my mind. But then his attitude changed after he found out that it was Chinese, and I was able to help him to contact the publisher in China who paid him $2,000 for the copyright of his book, but never got back to him. He wanted me to follow up to see whether his book was published in China or not. It turned out that the Chinese publisher decided not to have the book published because of the censorship in China. So Michel Desmarquet asked me to find a different publisher, and through different connections and channels, I got a book published in both China and Taiwan, where it became a bestseller in both countries.
That's cool.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the content of the book, what did you glean from that book? Or maybe you could tell us about what the experience was from that book.
In the very beginning, I thought it was just another book written by ET contactee because by that time I read so many of them already, and not a single book caught me that much attention. But this book is so different that it contains so much information as well as so many specific verifiable facts that I could verify and prove. Especially the chapter on who is Christ really got me. I couldn't put the book down because, I didn't believe anything written in the Bible in the past. I went to the church just to socialize and to expand my business network from the Christians who were really nice to me. But I really didn't believe what Jesus did or Christ did for that matter, because it's just so incredible because no one could heal the dead and to resurrect after being crucified on the cross.
Mhm.
But this book explains a lot of the inconsistencies in the Bible, and also why there are so many like people say that there was reincarnation in the Bible, in the original scriptures in the Bible, and why that got removed. It lists specifically the 4 Catholic Church Council meetings that intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures, and also explains why there's no record in the Bible that Jesus performed any miracles before the age of 30, and why there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan, that people can look up on the internet and visit and to see how that goes.
So this book is taking kind of an extraterrestrial approach to resolving theological mysteries.
Theological mysteries and also the mysteries of the paranormal on Earth. It's really like it's a very dense book that answers all my questions that I had before.
So can you start to build those connections for me? How did Mr. Desmarquet come across this information?
Well, in 1987, in the middle of the night, he was in June, like in Cairns, Australia, he was lifted up. Let me start from the beginning. So he woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, and he didn't know why, but he wrote a note to his wife that he would be gone for 10 days, and there's no need to worry about him. And he didn't know why, but he walked outside of his house to his yard that I visited in Australia. And he was lifted up to the middle of the air, and then he saw everything changed. The environment changed, and he was told that they entered into a parallel universe in which served as a hiding place for the UFOs and their spacecraft, so that people on Earth wouldn't be able to see them. And then he was explained why there was a case of a person who just suddenly vanished out of a sudden during a snowy day, and then why there are so many planes and ships that gone missing in the Bermuda Triangle area. There are so many places on Earth that are the orbs or portals or entry points into a parallel universe, and that explains why there are so many people who just suddenly vanish in the national parks in the U.S. and Canada, as documented by David Paulides in his Missing 411 series of books. And then he was told a lot of the other answers that we've been always looking for. For example, was there really ancient civilizations such as Lemuria and Atlantis? Yes, indeed. About 250,000 years ago, people from a different planet wanted to migrate to Earth because of their overpopulation problem. And then they established like a base on the continent of Lemuria that existed in the Pacific Ocean. They used the far side of the moon as a base so that they could migrate their people face by face. So there are artificial bases on the far side of the moon, and it also explains how they built the Great Pyramid and also how the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built, and things like that. A lot of very interesting information contained in the book.
So he slipped into a pocket dimension like the back rooms.
Yes.
And was able to make contact with extraterrestrials.
Well, it was a ET who lifted him up to the midair and then took him to the parallel universe, where they spent like a short period of time just to explain to him the situation and why he was having this kind of experience a little bit. And then they took him to their spacecraft and disinfected him using yellow light and blue light. That I later found out that yes, they do have yellow light and blue light do have antibacterial and antiviral effects. And then they took off, left Earth, and then to their planet called Thiaoouba. But before their arrival, they actually stopped by to a different planet called Arimal X3, in which they saw the aftermath of a nuclear war on that planet. And then Michel Desmarquet was explained a lot of the things that happened on Earth on the way there to Thiaoouba, the ninth category of planet, what he would call the golden planet. He was told how or where we came from, the yellow people, the black people, the Caucasians, the Polynesians, and the Jewish people. We all came from different planets originally. And then we didn't come from gorillas. We didn't evolve from gorillas like at all. So a lot of fascinating information.
So you're saying every race on the planet right now is from different planets originally, and they came here they all migrated from their planet to find a new home, and this is where they found.
Exactly. For example, the yellow people and the black people originally came from a planet called Baccaratini about 1.35 million years ago. And back then there was life on Mars, but Mars cooled down, and because when a planet's core cooled down and it doesn't have the electromagnetic forces that could capture the atmosphere, so Mars became like a desert planet, no longer have life anymore. And the Caucasians came afterwards and landed on the continent of Atlantis, and the Polynesians came from the planet Arimal X3 about 250,000 years ago, and the Jewish people, the Hebrews, came about 12,000 years ago from a planet of a different category called Hebra. So that's why the Jewish people are unique. And in a sense different and intelligent and very disciplined and spiritual. And the book explains why they were the chosen people according to the Bible. And indeed, they were chosen by the Thiaoubans. And this is a very interesting topic, and I would encourage people to read the book to get a full background information.
Did he explain why this planet? Like, because I mean, it's pretty spread out there. You know, it's not like everybody was close together that came here. But so how did they find out to come specifically like here?
Yes. For example, the black people and the yellow people they knew that their own planet, Baccaratini, was going to die, was going to cool down. So that's why they needed to find a different planet of the same category. Same thing happened to the Caucasians and the Polynesians, but the Jewish people came by accident. So they were searching for a planet of a different of the same category, which was a Category 3 planet, but their spacecraft malfunctioned, so they accidentally landed on Earth. Um, so that's why but they were not able to go back to their own planet or to keep their journeys because their spacecraft couldn't be relaunched. Um, and actually, Earth went through different catastrophes or natural disasters, and the people from Baccaratini, the black people and yellow people, had advanced technologies. But because of natural disasters that caused floods and also volcano activities, um, a lot of people died um, during those ancient times, about 1.3 million years ago. So we had to start over again to relearn the um, spiritual knowledge and technological knowledge.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
Well, okay, so you meet Michel. He's telling you you've read his book. He's telling you about the book. Um, what sort of things begin happening to you then? Like, how does life change for you at that point?
Well, I visited him twice. The first time, he didn't tell me anything that he didn't write in the book. But the second time, he disclosed to me that one thing he was not allowed to write in the book. And that changed my life because it was so shocking that I still had the problem believing that I was the only person who he told that information. Um, and so I started to really promote the messages in the book, hoping that we can change the future for the better. Because this is actually not a book of prophecy, it's a book of warnings from the ETs. If we don't change how we live right now, um, we are going to be heading a very big trouble or catastrophe in the
Yeah,
future.
we're gonna have to do what they did so long ago. We're gonna have to try to find somewhere else, right?
It's not just that, it's something a little bit more serious because what happened in the past, their planet was cooling down and they were able to find a different planet. But right now, we are destroying Earth by our
Mhm.
actions. It's not a natural process. We are doing that by our own actions, using technology and using different, um, like, for example, we do have clean technologies already. It's
Mhm.
just that they're suppressed by certain special interest groups.
Yep.
Yeah, so we all know that. I don't need to elaborate.
What warnings specifically does Michel give?
It encourages people to focus on the spiritual development of human being, not so be enslaved by the materialistic aspect of life. In a sense, if people are more spiritual, um, especially the people within that special interest group, they would know the consequences of suppressing such clean technologies and also ways to cure cancer. In a sense that they would benefit not just people but also the environment and also our future. It encourages people to really look at what's really happening around us and to look beyond the what's happening and what's reported by the mainstream media, and to really know that the Republicans and Democrats are just puppets fighting against each other on the stage, and there's
Mhm.
a special group of people running everything behind the scenes. And they also encourage people to really know the solutions to the problems that we are now facing on Earth, which is to rise up against tyranny by working together through collective actions, using nonviolent resistance to really have a strike against these financiers who are controlling everything. If you really think about it, the financiers can only make profits by depending on our labor, our kind of working for them. If we stop working for them, they have to cater to our demands and our wishes. So it's only when we know that, when we form a collective action, concerted action, that we can really um, like have enough power to make the change for the future.
Yes, that's you're 100% correct. It's the only way.
And this is in the book.
So it sounds like the mission here was to kind of instill a new world order based around kind of cooperative structures rather than capitalist structures. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, is that people have to know that spiritual knowledge is as important as material knowledge. And people need to work together through love and also through nonviolent resistance, because violence never pays off. Napoleon, a very smart military conqueror, used violence to conquer so much land, but he didn't go far because um, we need to focus on love and also on the power of the mind. I mean, we have to know that it's only through our, like, everything actually uh, is created by God. So if you hurt someone, you would know that, you would feel that um, when you die, when you review your past life, when you review how you did in your lifetime. So everyone is created by God. And in fact, the book tells us that when God created every one of us, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each of our astral bodies. So we are connected to God, and God is actually part of us. Um, so, so, and we, when we encounter life challenges, we should look inside for answers and not rely on government leaders or a specific religion or any leaders of certain groups, uh, because the kingdom of God is within you, as it says in the Bible, and we can get answers from our higher self by meditation or just by having a good night of sleep. Because if the answers are good for your spiritual development, they will be provided to you.
So this is starting to sound mostly like a religious text, right?
Yeah.
In an excerpt, kind of the foreword of Michel's book, he says, everywhere in the universe there exists a material, physical world. Likewise, there exists everywhere a non-material, non-physical world, which we call the spiritual world. Both worlds are only the two antipodes of form manifestations which make the entire universe, that is all existence, namely energy. It is the understanding and subsequent mastery of the behavior of this energy, which enables us to come to terms and to the proper handling of the physical world, not the other way around. So he's saying you have to master the spiritual in order to master the physical, right?
Yes, that's right. But I don't know if that's written in the book or said by Michel Desmarquet. But actually, he meant that. He didn't put that in the book, but he believes that that's correct. The spiritual kind of aspect of manifestations are more important than the. Actually, they direct the physical manifestations.
Okay.
Yeah, he believes that's correct. Yes.
All right. So, so did Michel describe to you uh, his experience? Because he was gone for an extended period of time, right?
Yes, 9 days.
9 days.
Yes.
And did he give you kind of any details or describe to you what he saw and the entities that he met?
Yes, the ETs from Thiaoouba, they're like giants. They are 9 or 10 foot tall, beautiful, blonde, and Nordic looking, but they're hermaphrodites, meaning that they have both male and female sexual organs. When Michel Desmarquet was on Thiaoouba, their planet, he saw them naked, and he proved that he actually told me that he saw they have both male and female sexual organs. And they can actually do a lot of things that Jesus Christ did, as documented in the Bible. They can levitate, they can communicate through telepathy, they can heal different wounds and different diseases, they can materialize or manifest objects, they can do all this kind of things. They can also make doubt human being within 24 hours. They have the knowledge to perform miracles. They have the knowledge to do a lot of things that we cannot do on earth. So when Michel Desmarquet was on Thiaoouba, so he actually witnessed a lot of the things that seem to be very, very different from Earth. And he felt it because on Thiaoouba, the gravity is lighter than on Earth. So he had to be careful when moving around. And also on that planet, there are strong, colorful lights that he had to wear facial masks like sunglasses to filter out the strong lights and colors. Otherwise, he would have been drunken by the lights and colors. And he was explained by the ETs that we actually can incorporate some of their technologies to make our lifestyles, our lives much better. And he was specifically told that colors have therapeutic effects. Different colors have different effects. For example, like pink color can reduce muscle weight or muscle strength. I did a lot of research on the effects of colors. And when he was in the spacecraft, they disinfected him using yellow light and blue light. So I did research and found out that Harvard Medical School had a research paper that proves that the different wavelengths of yellow light and blue light have antibacterial, antiviral effects. And also there's a research paper on the effects of pink color that reduces people's muscle strength by 30%. So there's a football coach in University of Iowa that painted the locker rooms of the visiting teams into pink, and he never lost a home game. So this is the so actually color therapy or chromotherapy was very popular in the US in 1920s, in the 20s. But then the pharmaceutical companies discovered antibiotics. So the FDA encouraged people to use antibiotics, not color. And recently there are studies of green color having effects of relieving migraines or headaches. Different researchers have shown that.
And he got all that from the Thiaoubans.
Yes, that's right.
Fascinating. Now, go ahead.
So
Kyle.
when you were talking about the 10-foot alien, and are they? I'm sure you're familiar with what happened in Vegas a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Are those close to the same ones? Because that's kind of close to what they were describing that was in their backyard. 10-foot tall. Are they the same or no, different?
No, very different. Because the ETs that Michel Desmarquet encountered are really beautiful beings, compassionate and loving people. They're like saint-like, Nordic-looking, very beautiful and very, very kind of sexy as well in a way. And they're not like ugly monsters, not at all.
So different. Okay. Gotcha. So did he really get into depth about how he went into that other, because you said like he went kind of like into a different dimension?
Yeah.
Did he really get in depth with you about like how he got to be able to do that, or how he was chosen, or whatever, like how he could he do it often after that, or was it just the one time, or
Just one time. It's all by the directions or by the actions of the ET that took him to their planet. So they took him to the parallel universe, a different dimension, in a certain sense, and then they left that parallel universe to and went on to their journey. And then when they came back, they also went inside of a parallel universe so that people on Earth wouldn't be able to see them. And then they dropped him off at his backyard. So that's what happened. But he was told that there are different locations on Earth. The most famous one would be the Bermuda Triangle. But there are other locations on Earth that are the entry points or portals into the parallel universe in which time stops and people don't feel any pain or hunger or thirst. And it's actually corroborates with the accounts of David Paulides, in which he found certain people who gone vanished when their corpse were found. It seemed that they walked to their bones, so their bones came out. So it seemed that they didn't feel any pain when they did it. So Michel Desmarquet was told that in a parallel universe, people don't feel any pain or hunger or thirst.
so besides the Bermuda Triangle, is there any other, where are some of those other ones that do we know, or it's just the Bermuda Triangle is one that we are definite on?
Yes, actually, Michel Desmarquet was told that the entry points to a parallel universe are just like ribbons, like always floating in the atmosphere or in space, and they always change. There's not a specific fixed location because they move around. So I would suggest people, if they really want to do research, just look at a map where most people gone vanish, as recorded by David Paulides, and to see where the approximate locations are. And I would assume that if NASA or the government or private companies have certain sensors that could detect the anomalies in space, the electromagnetic anomalies in the atmosphere, they would probably be able to locate the entry points into a parallel universe.
Now you got me something I'm gonna have to start researching more.
Yes.
So speaking of research, tell us about some of the research that you've done since your conversations with Michel.
Yes, for example, the Great Pyramid of Egypt and the pyramid structure is actually an energy center that can capture cosmic and terrestrial energy. So the ancient pharaohs used the Great Pyramid of Egypt correctly, using it as a tool to communicate with people on different planets and people in different worlds. They also used the Great Pyramid of Egypt to make rain using silver alloy plates and metal plates. And University of Reading did a study, it did a research experiment. They projected what they call the orgone energy into the sky so that clouds would form and rain would come out, would fall. So that kind of proves that the when you project certain energy using whether the pyramid or other form of equipment, you can actually make rain. And also, there are other studies that show that pyramid structure can concentrate and capture certain form of energy. And the other studies, researches that I did were actually kind of tracking down the facts mentioned in the book. such as the tomb of Jesus Christ in Shingo Village, Japan. And there is a tomb of Jesus Christ in Japan. That's very strange. But people in the village sing a song that sounded like the ancient Hebrew language. And people have different customs from nearby villages. That's very strange. And indeed, in the book, it says that young Jesus, the one that was born from Virgin Mary, was actually born from the implant put into the uterus of Virgin Mary. And he couldn't perform miracles. He went to India, so that's why some people say that Jesus went to India and died in Japan. So there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Japan. But that's not the Jesus that died on the cross. The one that died on the cross was a different being called Christ. Actually, Ariok is the name. That's actually an ET from Thiaoouba who kind of wanted to perform miracles to show people that he was someone extraordinary so that his teachings could be believed by the people at that time. But he had to use parables and analogies so that people could understand what he was trying to lead people into, which is the spiritual aspect of life. And also, he died on the cross, resurrected 3 days after, just to show people that there's life after death and there's reincarnation. But as we all know, the Catholic Church councils removed the concept of reincarnation, and the book specifically named the four different church council meetings that intentionally distorted the original meanings of the ancient scriptures in the Bible.
So it's a conspiracy, or it was a conspiracy, to remove the idea of extraterrestrials from Scripture.
Yes, they did that intentionally, and they also removed the concepts of reincarnation and a lot of different things that they couldn't explain, such as why Christ was suddenly able to perform miracles where Jesus couldn't. A lot of the inconsistencies in the Bible, such as in the Old Testament, um, there's a kind of a reference to God, but there's also reference to angels, and how that kind of played out to each other. And the book gives us specific explanations, saying that God is the creator of everything. God created all the planets, the stars, the animals and plants and human beings. But the Jehovah's, as mentioned in the Bible, were actually the Jehovah's who came to visit us, who were responsible for destroying the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, who were responsible for parting the Sea of Reeds, not the Red Sea, when Moses led the Hebrews out of Egypt, who were responsible for putting the implants into the uterus of Virgin Mary and sending Christ to us, and who were responsible for preventing Germany from being the first country to develop the atomic bomb. Like a lot of different things written in the book can be proven and can be further researched.
Okay, and so what does that research look like? How are you going to go about connecting the Bible to the extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings that Michel encountered?
I mean, when Jesus was born and people saw the Star of Bethlehem, that's an indication of a UFO or UAP craft on the sky. And I did some research. I'm Chinese, and I do a lot of readings. And in the Chinese ancient records, the astronomers in China recorded the days in which they saw a bright star in the sky, and it's so specific that they could pinpoint the exact date when that happened. I actually wrote an article on my website that referenced the ancient astronomical records of China that showed the star of Bethlehem in the sky. And also, I did a lot of other research. So when Christ began preaching, he saw his mother, but he didn't call his mother mother. He called her woman. That seemed to be very strange way of calling someone's mother. It's really odd to me as well because I'm a linguist. I study languages. Because mother and son have a very special relationship. Not a single language in the world in which a son would call his mother woman in that occasion. So that explains why, and there are explains why Jesus and Christ may be two different beings.
So you think because in the Bible they make it one person.
Right.
You think that is just because of another reason could be like poor record keeping, and because from when everything happened at the time, like the Bible was written, and it was story upon story upon story, so it's almost a telephone game in a sense as well. You think that's another way that a lot of this stuff has been left out and or meshed together just from the telephone game, in the lack of a better sense to say it.
Exactly. So they were trying to explain the story, the young Jesus, and also the teachings of Christ. So the young Jesus went to India and went to Japan, but then suddenly people saw a different being who resembled the appearance of Jesus. They didn't know who that person was because he was able to perform all the miracles and began preaching all the spiritual lessons and the things that people were kind of wondering about. And so they try to explain why suddenly that person was able to perform all the miracles and why that person was just like the appearance of Jesus who left for India and died in Japan. So they were trying to make the story more consistent. They didn't know that there were two beings at the same period of time.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at that Tomb of Jesus in Japan. I was reading up on it. It's actually a pretty interesting story. He went to this little town, got married, had kids, lived to be 106.
Yes.
And I find that fascinating that it's not talked about more, that that he did end up in Japan settling down, so to speak.
Yes. I remember this book, Thiaoouba Prophecy, was written in the late 80s, before the age of the internet. Michel Desmarquet was a landscaper in Cairns, Australia, and he didn't know how to type. He didn't know how to use a computer, and there was no internet, and he never traveled to Japan. How would he have known that?
Yeah, unless being told somehow through his encounters.
Yes.
Yeah. Right
there. So then after all of this kind of connection between religion and alien or extraterrestrial entities, maybe they're not alien, maybe they're very familiar, but what's kind of your mission right now?
With the events that happened in the last 3 years, and also with what's really going on in the world, the wars, we had in the past like a relatively long period of peaceful world in which there had been no like major wars in the world, but now they're starting it again and causing a lot of conflicts because the military industrial complex needs to make money. And a lot of wars are actually created, as I think you probably know that, and by the special interest groups. So I'm trying to raise people's awareness so that they know that no one really wants a war. And it's the small group of people who is really causing a lot of issues on Earth. But there's a way to respond to such issues and problems on Earth, which is to have knowledge and know what's really going on so that you know how to respond correctly. So I think knowledge is power is actually very, very important for people to follow and to know that. So I'm trying to bring out spiritual and material knowledge to the public so that people can know when certain things happen. For example, if you know how to eat or how to eat with the right diet, you wouldn't need to see doctors, and you wouldn't need to really have a health insurance. If the government forces you to do so, you can just take a class in a community college and have the student health insurance by paying about $10 per semester. If you have the knowledge to be healthy, you wouldn't need to be. You wouldn't need to go to. You wouldn't need to pay so much money for medications or doctor's visits. Yeah, so knowledge is the key. And if you know how the politicians play the public, you would know how to respond to when the next elections come and make the choices.
Yeah, the more people that know that there's a small group orchestrating what us of the public is hearing, if more people could know and understand that it's not in our best interest and it's only in this small group of puppet masters, that we could actually make change. I completely agree with you.
Yes. So I'm trying to kind of let people have as much knowledge as possible, both here in the U.S. but also in China and the rest of the world. People need to know what's going on.
They need to
Well, I
wake
would say
up.
that there's probably a lot of people out there who want to share that same message, but maybe associated with other things. The idea of peace being shared among all mankind, the idea of the government kind of working against our interests. Those are things that a lot of people are trying to share, and that have become very clear in the last few years, that the people who profess to have our best interests at heart really do not. They have only the preservation of their own power at heart.
Yes.
And that's probably the biggest lesson I've had from doing this podcast, is that all of the lies that are told publicly to preserve the power of the elites. I mean,
And people, some people believe that there are monsters or devils or evils or evil ETs. I mean, I personally believe that this is just some kind of created enemy or imagination of the people, because the ETs are benevolent if they're allowed to visit us and to guide us. And for example, I can explain a little bit more, is that we were prevented from going back to the moon. We were warned off from the moon. Michel Desmarquet was told that we were not allowed to explore outside of our planet because we were not ready, and we are still not ready. Give you like example. This is Michel Desmarquet's example. If you see two groups of monkeys fighting against each other in a forest or in a zoo, would you want to invite them to your beautiful mansion, your beautiful house? You wouldn't, because they would mess you up, mess everything around and pollute everything. So we are the people, we are still polluting our own planet. So they're afraid of us polluting other planets or other places in the universe. So they are the ones preventing us from exploring outside of our planet. So I think NASA or the government is just trying to get more fundings and by claiming that they're going back to the moon again or something like that.
I agree with them. With the ETs. I don't think we should go and mess up any other planets as well. I think they're 100% right. We are way not ready. I think we have a long way to go before the way we think now and today it isn't right to leave and visit any other type of planet right now that's inhabited, because we're too dominant. We tried to be too dominant, and we're not going to be there to try to just be. It seems like what the people in charge and the puppet masters would do is would try to dominate, and not. It wouldn't be a peaceful thing. It would be more of a takeover, and I just don't think that we're ready yet. So I agree with them.
And in the last week or so, or 2 weeks or so, the media has been focusing attention to the disclosure of David Grush retrievals of crashed ET spacecrafts or UFOs or UAPs. Those are the ones that crashed. But I think the spacecrafts of the Thiaoubans won't crash or didn't crash on Earth because of their superior and more advanced technologies. I believe that we should learn from the masters. We should learn from the experts, not from our peers. So this is why I would encourage people to really read the book and to get the information and knowledge from the masters or mentors who, in fact, have been guiding us throughout history, throughout the ancient past. And actually, the book contains one additional knowledge I'd like to um, point it out, which is ghosts. What are ghosts? Some people among my friends, I know people who can see ghosts, who could communicate with ghosts. So ghosts are really made of electrons. So when a person dies, his astral body leaves the physical body, and the astral body is actually made of electrons. So in 3 days of time, 81% of the electrons of the astral body would go back to the higher self of that person. So this is why Jesus or Christ resurrected 3 days after. And this is why the Tibetans have a custom in which the corpse of the dead are not to be touched for 3 days. So in 3 days' time, 81% of the electrons of the astral body goes back to the higher self. The remaining 19% remains in nature, like in our world, until they're either recycled by nature or when the person reincarnates again on Earth. So, what some people would see ghosts are actually the 19% of the remaining, um, the electrons of the remaining astral body of that person who just passed away. So, because electrons have memories, so sometimes ghosts remember the places they loved or hated.
Mhm.
And also because of static forces, the electrons resemble the appearance or the shape of the person who just passed away. So this is like the explanation of ghosts according to this book. And I think if you don't like ghosts, you can just use a lighter or fire to dispel the electrons to make the ghosts go away. And I think there's nothing to be afraid of and nothing to be kind of puzzled about it because it's just a natural phenomena.
Mhm.
That's amazing. So I put up on the screen here the website that you shared with us, www.chinasona.org/Thiaoouba, which is spelled Thiaoouba. Thiaoouba. And it describes a little bit about your experience with Mr. Desmarquet and some of the questions that his book attempts to answer. And then I've also got link to the book itself, and on Amazon it comes with a little bit of a preview. So this is the cover of the book. Comes with a little table of contents and a foreword, which is what I was reading from earlier. And then the book dives right in to Michel's abduction to the ninth planet and his conversation with a being called Theo.
Or
Right?
Tao. Yeah, Tao. Yes.
Tao. Endlessly fascinating stuff. It's kind of a lot for me to wrap my head around, but endlessly fascinating.
I think it was a great, for our listeners, I think it was a very good introduction. If they're,
Yes.
to get the book, to start doing the research, to try to understand. So I think your mission of coming on today to help and to get pointed in a good direction, I think it was very well accomplished here today.
Thank you.
So the question is, how do people find you? They want to learn more.
They can search on the internet my name, Samuel Chong, and also the title of the book to find my website and also my Facebook. And I'll post from time to time some of my research results, and some of them have a lot of practical value, and that can help people, and either in terms of how to live a healthier life, or how to respond to the challenges that we face in our lifetime. So I think it's very practical information on my website.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Samuel. We appreciate you. I also really like your first name because it's the same as mine.
That's the best part.
And for our audience, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. We always respond to everybody's comments, and we'd love to see the content that you appreciate and bring you more of it. So make sure you subscribe as well so that you can continue to explore these kinds of topics with us and our guests. Until next time, keep on exploring the edges of the unknown.